Alright. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic, less non-classic. This is episode number 3092 in Doubleshot 2986. Got two traits here where we have stuff here by Paul Jenkins. And both came out roughly the same period of time each other. First one kind of does out of order here, but I really want to do this one first. First one discussing is Captain Marvel Secret Invasion. This collects Civil War: The Return, features the apparent return of the original Captain Marvel, along with Captain Marvel Volume 6, which was a 5-issue miniseries. Yes, seriously. So it is explained in the Captain Marvel in the Civil War Return one shot that he had just showed up. Oh, by the way, in case you're curious, though, when this volume was released, this was basically in 2008, mind you, just prior to the outbreak of Civil War 1. Actually, it was 2007 when the first issue came out. And the last book came out roughly about 3 years, like the last issue, which is the last issue Peter David himself wrote, came out in July of 2004. So it had been 3 years since the last volume. And after this volume's conclusion, there will not be another Captain Marvel volume released for 4 years. Yeah, it will not be until 2012, where we have a long string of Captain Marvel series, that one featuring Carol Danvers, and this will be a common thing for Marvel Comics. For the next 12 years, there will be a constant Captain Marvel comic book published, despite its constant relaunches. So, the story goes in this book is that Captain Marvel was apparently woken in the present day. He has somehow been time dispatched. And the first person he sees is Sentry. He's been older than last home. Now you're probably thinking when you see this, like, wait a minute. How the heck did Captain Marvel know the Sentry? Now, there is an explanation behind the scenes why Sentry is here in this Civil War one-shot. Paul Jenkins created him. Basically, he is a retcon character who is a forgotten Silver Age superhero, and somehow he was friends with Captain Marvel and the Hulk. And then, pretty much with Civil War 1, most of the one-shot, he's confined to the negatives of Prison 42. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about another book Paul Jenkins wrote, where he is the warden of the place until he manages to go out during the final battle, which took place during Civil War number 7, which apparently that was inserted there, and then right after this one shot was released, which was in 2007, mind you. Yeah. Now, Civil War Return, which features the first appearance of this version of the character, that was released in January. And the first issue of this book was not released until November. So, kind of in a way, Marvel sat on this character for months. Yeah. By the way, the book is written by Brian Reed. Which they keep... Wait a minute. Brian Reed. That name sounds familiar. Wasn't he also writing a book around the same period time this book came out? Yes, he was. The Carol Danvers Miss Marvel book, which lasted 50 issues. This book is published alongside of it. And the book was artwork by Lee Weeks. Now, Brian Reed himself, okay, so he did some work on Marvel. Not a lot, per se. Let's see. His first issue comic he did was Spider-Man Unlimited, Volume 3, number 11. He apparently wrote the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. He did Spider-Woman Origin. He did the Miss Marvel comic. He did New Avengers Illuminati Volume 2, I'll discuss probably another point. Let's see, did this book? Who Do You Trust one shot? Civil War, Secret Invasion Front Line, he wrote that book. Secret Invasion Amazing Spider-Man. Apparently he was one of the writers for Web of Shadows. Did some Time Storm stuff. But once the Captain Marvel book wrapped up, he also did Siege Embodied. Yeah, basically a lot of stuff on Front Line, basically he would write. Most of a lot of miniseries. He did American Spider-Man Presents American Son, Halo book, the first issue of Serve Protect. He did AO 39 for Amazing Spider-Man. The last ever comic he released, it was the Marvel comic release with him as the writer, was 700.5, released back in 2013. You're thinking 2013, that was like, oh my gosh, like 11 years ago. But he did a lot. So if you think about it, he technically only worked on one ongoing, Miss Marvel. And a miniseries over there. But in a way, the guy basically had Marvel Comics release comics for him for a period for about 9 years. Which, gotta praise him for that. Yeah, so basically, a lot of stuff happens in the Course miniseries. Like, you have Carol Danvers meeting him, have a little team mission with him. Him kind of remembering who she is. And there's also this miniseries. This actually is not a time dispatch Captain Marvel, but a Skrull named Qatar. Which, apparently, he became the original Captain Marvel due to a procedure. That was when he was sleeper agent. Or apparently, he woke up during the procedure and believed he was the original Captain Marvel. And at one point in the book, he accidentally sent Miss Marvel to the negative, takes the negative band. They fixing the problem. There's also this church that pops up during this miniseries called the Brotherhood of Hala, which the whole point of this cult is just thinking that Captain Marvel is the second coming of Christ. Captain Marvel's return. And he also was fighting villains, if I originally, like Cyclone, who I should point out, though, is a Spider-Man villain. Oh, and here's something also. Yeah, this guy's going to be a Skrull. But here's the weird thing related to this particular character. Related to Cyclone. The original Cyclone. The one is the enemy of Spider-Man. The man is... Well, at the time this book came out, the man was dead. I think Scourge General killed him. He died. He was let's see. He got killed in Captain America 320. Yeah, that's where he died. He was part of that infamous Borrowed No Name massacre. Yeah, and he never fought the original one. Not really. So, we also have this woman that hit us because also Captain Marvel was hanging in France. A lot of this miniseries. Yeah, he's like they're really hanging in France. Issue 2 is where he hangs out with. He also fights Cobalt Man. Which that is interesting. Because this is somebody who actually is alive. And you think Cobalt, when you look at him, he looks like an Iron Man villain. Matter of fact, he had a grudge against Tony Stark. But yeah, he didn't make his debut in Iron Man. He made his debut in X-Men. Which is weird. Like, why the heck would he debut in the pages of X-Men, even though he's allegedly supposed to be like a low-ranked Iron Man villain? And if you're really curious, did the original Coleman ever appear in Iron Man? No. He never did. And unlike the Skrull version, so apparently he was basically like, he died in Civil War 1. Well, apparently he died then, and apparently he fought the real one. Yeah. And of course, if I Kree soldiers on a helicarrier, yeah, Well, the whole thing of this is that Iron Man and Captain Marvel are meeting. All of a sudden, here comes Kree soldiers out of nowhere, who turn out to be freaking Skrulls. Yeah, and we also have this character named Nathan Jefferson. Yeah, he's a fairly new character. He only exists in this book, and I think he popped up in Miss Marvel after this. Oh, and the thing with Brotherhood of Hala, this group only exists in this miniseries and appeared as a on-screen thing issue of Captain Marvel, and that was it. The leader of Brotherhood of Hala gets killed off in issue 4. We also have this guy called Ralph Reynolds, who actually was called. He was actually revealed to be a freaking Skrull in this issue, and basically at this point the book became a tie-in to Secret Invasion, like a prelude of it. Yeah, and in final issues when revealed that he was actually a Skrull all along. As for the Shield agent in this book, well, she would Heather Sent. She later appeared in Who Do You Trust one shot, which is meant to be, which for some reason was not included in this trade paperback. Yeah, I'm not really sure of exactly why this was not included in here. It just that it wasn't included here. I'm just not really sure why. But by the way, the cover of this book, for the cover of the book is by Emma Guinness, Dexter Veens, who I met the guy, also got Emma Guinness too, Jason Keith, who was from the colors, and Jeremy Cox. The cover art for Civil War Return is, well, they said the variant cover is by Emma Guinness and David Craig. The book cover is done by Lee Weeks and Matt Molina. Yeah, this book was excellent. I give this book a 10 out of 10. This book was just absolutely amazing. In case you, by the way, during the course of this miniseries, he did also make a guest appearance in Young Avengers Presents. Yes. But after this miniseries wrapped up, believe it or not, guess where he next appeared? Secret Invasion. He appeared in a couple of Secret Invasion. Even chronologically, he appeared in Secret Invasion #1. And then he appeared in 2 issues of Thunderbolts. Yes, where he fought Thunderbolts because he was working for the Skrulls. And then he got killed off in... then he appeared in My Avengers 19. And then he got killed off in Secret Invasion #6. And apparently he inspired Norval, who was previously Marvel Boy and later became Protector, to become new Captain Marvel for a year. Yep. But yeah, next up we have is another Paul Jenkins book. This being a very controversial book per se, and this book was a tie-in to a miniseries that lasted 7 issues. This book lasted for 13, which this is by far the first and only time I've ever heard of a tie-in miniseries that has more issues than the main title, that being Civil War Frontline. This is a trade paperback that collects the first 6 issues of the ongoing. Before I talk about the actual contents of the book, I have to briefly talk about this cover. Like, why is it like half like that? According to Steve McNiven, the reason why the tie-ins were done like that, the covers, was because this was a request by the editors. Yep, that was simply the reason for it. There are basically 2 main stories here. There's the embodied and there's the accused. The accused is focused on, well, it starts off with these 2 guys just seeing this like explosion in the field, and it turns out to be Speedball. Yes, Robert Brown, who survived the massacre of Stamford, Connecticut in Civil War #1. And then they take him to the hospital, and then as soon as he wakes up, he's barely conscious, and then this doctor comes in, feels he's actually not a doctor, but a SHIELD agent, and he's arrested on the spot for being unregistered. And you're thinking, what? He's barely conscious. And, by the way, he requests a lawyer because he's arrested by a legal agent. Yes, the guy apparently is, and then he's arrested by, he also worked with U.S. Marshals for some reason, so I think he also be a SHIELD agent, which I thought was kind of weird. And he asked for a lawyer, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm like, wait, last time I checked, despite being unregistered, he's still an American citizen. Like, and here's the weird thing about this. Now, he of course is brought before trial. Though briefly he's sent to the negative zone, and he gets into a very heated discussion with Reed Richards. And he refers to him as part of the elite savants who designed Negative 42, aka Fantasy Island, which the place was designed by Reed Richards himself, Iron Man, and Hank Pym, which in this book is later going to be to be a scroll. Yes. Yeah. And then, of course, he gets a lawyer, which is Jen Walters, which is awesome. And he's off of register. He denies it. And then he goes speak for Congress. And then he's shot by somebody before I get a chance to testify. Now, I saw this again because I hadn't read this book in years. The last time I officially read it, I think it was back in like 2008, I think it was. Yeah, around like 08-ish. And I kind of forgot this happened. I saw this, I'm like, wait, is the artist of this story... Like, I saw the scene here, like the gun with the two people from government agents escorting a witness. Does it seem like very familiar to you? A guy who walks up and shoots the dead center person. To me, when I think of this, I think of the very famous footage when Lee Harvey Oswald was back on trial, apparently for the murder of JFK, and he's shot by Jack Ruby on live TV. And I'm like, did Paul Jenkins take inspiration from the Lee Harvey Oswald death? Presumably. And also, he starts to get bloody when he breaks his chair because Peter Parker decided to out himself as Spider-Man. And this would lead into something that will happen in Thunderbolts. Yes. But as for the Embodied, this is basically a storyline involving Ben Urich, where this storyline in particular will lead into him actually quitting Larry, being fired from Daily Bugle by J. Jonah Jameson. Which, of course, apparently this was actually like the 23rd time he's been fired. Yeah. And one reason they fired him was because of stuff related to Norman Osborn. Also, his co-worker Sally Floyd she's interviewing the Resistance, and because she didn't want to disclose her sources related to where these people were, she's arrested on the spot for being basically collaborator. I'm like, do you have any evidence? The fact that she is just talking to these people. She's getting their side of the story. And I'm like, is this particular agent is a complete moron. And the one thing I didn't like about this book was the fact that Jameson didn't stop these federal agents for one of his employees, one of his reporters who worked for him. Because there should have been a scene in this book of Jameson wondering what the heck is going on. They should have run a scene here where, like, you're under arrest and he's going to take it, and Jameson comes out and says, "What's going on here? Where are you taking my reporter?" Yeah, and the fact that she's been interviewing, like, last time I checked, technically she's doing her job, and she's arrested for doing her job. I'm like, that is so freaking stupid. Yeah. I'm not kidding about that. She gets arrested for daring to interview people who are fighting against the government. Well, technically against an act. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing with Sally Floyd, Paul Jenkins credited her when she first appeared in the book Generation, which I previously discussed. Really good miniseries, by the way. A lot of the tie-ins post-House were really good. Yeah, and this was her next appearance that she made was in this very book. And then, of course, she also appeared in the Frontline book for World Hulk. She appeared in a lot of her books. She's also been a supporting character in Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah. And I wonder for the longest time, like, what happened after she was in prison in Captain America Steve Rogers. And then, for some reason, she apparently got released in a digital tie-in that was released last year. And by the way, she was in prison back in 2017. No joke. She seriously was. And then nothing was done with this for 7 years. 7 years. It's almost like the writer of this From the Ashes one shot, these digital stuff, probably felt sorry for this character. Oh, it's Alex Pinto who later wrote some Carnage stuff. It's like nobody had anything to do with this character. Not really. I mean, I like the character of Sally Floyd. I think she's a great character. I know that she was rated very controversial during the events of Civil War, where she interviewed Captain America. Where, according to the original scene, apparently she liked the fact that apparently she was on MySpace, or he was on MySpace on like NASCAR. Yeah. And oh, by the way, she's arrested for daring to mention the name of a city that was destroyed by Hydra, and arrested on the spot. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. Yeah, I'm like, what is up with people in the Marvel Universe keep arresting her for doing her job? She's a reporter. Why the heck is she being arrested for? Yeah, this miniseries was actually, limited series, actually the first time she was ever arrested. Yeah, but I like how Ben Urich is written here. I think Paul Jenkins does an excellent job writing him. Yeah, that's one thing I at least got praise with this book, is how Paul Jenkins writes him. I do appreciate how Speedball is written, where he does point out the obvious, despite the fact that, well, he's basically public see him as a scapegoat because people blame him for the destruction of Sanford, despite the fact that he's not the one who did it. It was Nitro. He points out in the book that it was Nitro who did that. And people call him a baby killer. Yeah. And because of this event, in-universe, the New Warriors got a negative reception since then, because they are blamed for causing the destruction of Stanford, despite the fact that it was not their fault. It's put out in this very mini-series, right here, Civil War Frontline, that... And you're wondering, how the heck did he survive this explosion? I'm guessing his powers. At one point, he's depowered. Yes. Yes, like I said, I do praise how the heroes are written in this book. Like, Ben Urich and Sally. I like their dialogue, how they're written. Sally, I'm not surprised she's written her low because Paul Jenkins created her. Ben Urich, excellent job with him. Speedball. I would say the lead characters are written to be really good. That's one thing you can at least have positivity about this book. And a lot of this book is taking place around the opening issues. I would say the first issue takes place after Civil War 1. Mm-hmm. And like every single issue or two takes place between certain issues. Mm-hmm. By the way, in one of the tie-ins, there actually is somebody who actually goes after the man responsible for Stanford, Nitro, and it's Wolverine. And he actually does bring them to the authorities, except the Atlanteans take it because he killed Nemortita. And to this day, 19 years since the event happened, Nitro has never officially been charged with the destruction of Stanford for killing 600 people. The fact that it's also brought up constantly in the book that, oh, he is blamed for those deaths because he dared to survive. So, if you want to think of the biggest weakness of this book is the characters surrounding the lead characters, written to be so terrible. So, the first issue, so it takes place not only after the Civil War, but also apparently after Amazing Spider-Man 532. And then between this issue and the second issue, we had Civil War 2 and Thunderbolts 103. That is apparently, according to the story, takes place. So, also the best way you can describe this limited series is that it fills in gaps. This is basically not from a superhero's perspective a lot of the time. This is from normal, non-powered superheroes like Ben Urich and Sally Floyd. Now, Sally Floyd at this point in time only been around in comics for like a year. Ben Urich has been around since the 80s. Now, you're probably curious, though. Is the newspaper front line, which became New Daily Bugle years later, was it established and so this book? No. You have to wait to the end of the book for that. But, so, the positives. Like I said, Ben, Sally, and Robert. Written really, really well here. I like how they're written. They're ready to be in character and how they're written. Jameson is ready to be fine, except for the one scene should be there, even though it's not there. The artwork is really good. It's just everything surrounding these characters is not good. Not good at all. At least Ben Urich basically is able to escape no problem. Mm-hmm. Yes. Also, in this issue 1, Tony Stark outs him. This is one of the few times they show, oh, Tony Stark outs himself as Iron Man. Mm-hmm. I keep thinking, though, because basically Sally Floyd's currently where she's in Alaska, maybe she should appear in the Jed MacKay X-Men book, because they're based in Alaska. Yeah, but like I said, I kind of wish basically like, oh, by the way, the artist for these issues, of course, you have Paul Jenkins, obviously. So Embodied, this is drawn by Roman Bichis. Steve Lieber does the cues. The Program, that's one of the stories in this book. Leonardo Fernandez. Sleeper Cell is done by Lee Weeks. And War Correspondence is done by Ken Kobayashi, Keno, David Aja, Sean Chen, Rick Maguire, Roy Allen, Laura Martinez, and Jorge Lucas. The cover is John Watson. Yes. That is pretty much what happens here. Yeah, I'll probably look this up later on, but that's gonna be pretty much a particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and well, I'll see you all next video for my review for Red Ranger Adventure in Another World. Okay, next video. Bye.